Morning to the Minister, Deputy Minister, and DG, and entire team. Morning to the BMA Commissioner, Dr. Mashapat, and the Deputy Commissioners. We're again meeting today with the special committee meeting as agreed in the last portfolio committee meeting to receive a detailed brief on the issues surrounding the landing of the UAE president and the entourage. And members have circulated questions to the minister and the commissioner on this area. We've noted also the press statement that the minister with your colleagues you have interacted with and the details thereof in terms of the issues that surrounding the landing of the president. Today, we are going to zoom only on the area that related to our oversight, the Home Affairs and the Border Management Authority. And members will be given opportunity to interact with the minister and his team and the deputy minister, and hope that issues that are supposed to be cleared will be able to interact with them. We're going also to, we're taking note also on the areas, some of the issues that the minister could not respond in the last committee meeting related to this matter, and hope the minister will have given you enough time, or you have enough time with your team to prepare for this briefing. Mr. Matonzi, we're not going to take a lot of time. I will invite you on the item number 2 so that we'll allow the minister to deal with item number 3. Mr. Matonzi.
Thanks, Chair. I did not receive any apology.
Thank you. Minister Mtswaledi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members. Chairperson, I think you have already introduced the fact that there's the Deputy Minister here, the DG of Home Affairs, the Commissioner of Border Management Authority, but you also have the DDG for Immigration Services and the other Home Affairs officials. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And this day, indeed, Chairperson, you did give us enough time from Tuesday to start making preparations. But this was our approach, Chairperson. Firstly, before coming to approach, I would like to ask you, the document I've submitted to you, with which I'm going to present, on the very last page, after my signature of this document, I would like us to correct a typo there up front. Extract number C, that means on attachment, extract of section 33, that is supposed to be 30, not 33, of the Border Management Authority Act. Is a typo there. I'm asking honorable members to correct that, please. Thank you very much, and sorry for that. The second thing I want to mention, Chair, is our approach. Our approach was to read all questions. Remember, we had questions from honorable members. We have got other letters from at least 2 political parties also asking questions. Then there's an issue of going to the public protector, whereby obviously we are going to submit every single document to the public protector. So our approach was to try and narrate what has happened, with the hope that in the narration, some of your questions will be answered. But I'm asking honorable members that if any specific question was not answered after I've presented, then honorable members will pull out those questions and put them to us so that we specifically answer them. But I thought, instead of doing the whole thing in a question and answer form, where I read one question, put answer, you know, it will look like too much of ballot or you know, and not a full discussion. Because while I'm answering your questions, we're also engaging in trying to see how things run smoothly in the department and with your workers oversight. So that was our approach, Chairperson. May I start, Chair? Yes.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, as an introduction, the designation of Bulembu Airport in Bisho as a place of port of entry and exit generated intense public debate In the process, innuendos and unfounded allegations were paraded in the public domain. The visit by the President of the United Arab and the ruler of Abu Dhabi involved international protocols and security considerations governing visits to South Africa by any head of state. In this instance, the investment benefit of the Eastern Cape province was also at play. Now let's come to the designation of the airport. Chairperson, on the 7th of April, 2023, as Minister of Home Affairs, I received an application or request from the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Mr. Oscar Mabuyane. The application or request contains supporting documentation, including diplomatic communication between South Africa and the United Arab Emirates. The application of the Premier, or the request, if you may call it that, inter alia states that, and I'm quoting, that's why I'm opening inverted commas there. The Eastern Cape province has received a request from the United Arab Emirates dated 28 March 2023 for diplomatic overflight and landing rights permit to the Abu Dhabi presidential flight scheduled to arrive at Bulembu Airport in Bisho on the 12th of April 2023 and depart on the 12th of May 2023. I may add that the Convention on International Civil Aviation, called the Chicago Convention, exempts state aircraft from international standards as provided for in Article 3 of the Chicago Convention. The Eastern Cape provincial government held consultation with His Excellency Ambassador Mahash Salem Al-Ameli since December 2022. The said consultation were aimed at promotion of investment, trade, and tourism between Eastern Cape Province and the Abu Dhabi Emirates. The cooperation between the parties culminated in my invitation, my means the Premier here, in my invitation by the President of United Arab Emirates and the ruler of Abu Dhabi, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, to visit UAE in my official capacity. The visit took place on the 31st of March 2023 to the 4th of April 2023. During the Eastern Cape Province delegation visit in Abu Dhabi, a firm commitment was made for a multi-billion rand investment portfolio in oil, gas, energy, tourism, agriculture, and economic infrastructure towards the Eastern Cape Province. During the visit, the Eastern Cape delegation was informed of the hosting of COP28 climate conference by the UAE later this year. The president of UAE and the ruler of Abu Dhabi will be undertaking a private visit to the Eastern Cape province in April 2023. Although the visit will be private, His Highness intends to bring along a large entourage who will continue to assess the investment opportunities in the Eastern Cape province. I am advised that the Minister of Home Affairs has the necessary statutory powers to designate Bulembu Airport as a place of port of entry and exit. I therefore apply to have the said airport designated as such. In the event the application or request is successful, the Department of Home Affairs is requested to provide the immigration services during the arrival and departure of His Highness and the entire entourage. Section 9A of the Immigration Act, honorable members, the minister considered Section 9A, I as minister rather, considered Section 9A of the Immigration Act 13 of 2002, and I want to read subsection 1 and 2. The minister may, in the prescribed manner, designate any place in the Republic which complies with the prescribed requirements where all persons have to report before they enter, sojourn, or remain within or depart from the Republic. Subsection 2, the minister may, on good cause shown, withdraw the designation in subsection 1 at any time. The minister also had regard to section 30. I, as Minister, I also had regard to section 30 of the Border Management Act of 2020, Act number 2 of 2020, the BMA Act, excuse me, and particularly section 30, subsection 3 of the BMA Act, which provides for publication of a notice in the Gazette for public comments for a period of no less than 30 days. Chairperson, let me just silence my phone, please. I'm sorry about that. Yes, thank you. So I, as Minister, was convinced that the application and relevant provisions were section 9A of the Immigration Act, read with regulation 8 of the Immigration Regulations 2014, and not section 30 of the BMA Act. After I duly applied my mind to all the facts before, and on 12 April 2023, I issued a notice of designation of Bulembu Airport in Bishop as a place of port entry and exit, as contemplated in section 9A, read with regulation 8 of the Immigration Act. The notice of designation is annexed here to marked A. I've annexed it, Chairperson, as Annexure A. The said notice with a covering letter dated 12 April 2023 was sent to the Premier of the Eastern Cape. The arrival of His Highness and the entourage. Upon arrival of the entourage, immigration, port health, and agricultural services were rendered through Border Management Authority, BMA, and all the visitors, including His Highness, were in possession of the required travel documents, including visas. Some of the visitors only produced valid passport as they came from countries of which visas are not required in South Africa. As the chairperson, here we mean because the president of UAE was accompanied by people from no less than 32 countries. Most of those from the 32 countries were given visas, but they also have people from Europe, from Canada, from the US and UAE themselves. And as you are aware, those countries do not require visas to visit South Africa. As the visit involved international protocols and security matters, members of the South African Police Services, SAPS, and customs officials from South African Revenue Services, SARS, performed their respective statutory duties upon the arrival of the entourage. A total number of 680 visitors were processed in accordance with all the requisite laws of the Republic. All goods were duly processed by customs officials in line with the applicable laws. For the exit of the out of the Republic, the same procedures are repeated. It is clear, Chairperson, from the above, that most of the speculations and assumptions which dominated the public discourse are simply devoid of any truth. The mere fact that the private visit of His Highness was not made public does not entitle anyone to malign the government without any facts. As a matter of fact, there are many heads of states who have privately visited South Africa unannounced over the years. It is unfortunate that this visit of His Highness, the President of UAE and entourage, is likened to the infamous Gupta family Waterkloof landing, which we generally regard as having been illegal. Finally, I will await the investigation by the public protector, in which I'll make available all the information that form the basis of the decision. Before you ask questions, Chairperson, I want to clarify something which maybe might not be commonly known. While the declaration of Bulembu Airport was prompted by the letter from the Premier asking me specifically to do that, and as you see, you can see from the copy of the declaration, which I'm attaching it as Annexure A, we said this is from the 12th of April to the 12th of May. This means, Chairperson, that between these two periods, Anybody can now land there because it's now a designated area for that period. The designation, as you can see, is not directed to one particular individual. It's just a designation. So any member of the public or anybody with good reasons who decides to land there rather than any other place can do so until the 12th of May, 2023. So it means the entry period is still valid until that time. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the brief. I'm going to invite members to...
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Jan.
Just before you invite us, there's something that I want to raise.
Okay.
In the meeting we held during the week, when you closed, you said we're going to require supporting documents from the minister in his department in terms of this whole process. I see that here, what is attached limits our engagements. Here where there's an attachment of what we have access to. For instance, your BA Act, the Immigration Act, we have access to the Chicago International Civil Aviation Convention. We have access to that. And now, if we're going to have a discussion only based on what they've given us, not what we think is supposed to be supporting documents, is going to limit our conversation. We'll never get answers to what the department is asking for. I don't think what they've given us as supporting documents helps what we are looking for in terms of this whole arrangement, Chairperson. You said to them that they must give supporting documents, not what is already available in the public domain. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Minister, what did you consider as supporting documents? And I'll come back to members so that we deal with the matter.
Yeah, no, Chairperson, I will give you every document, but I regarded this also as supporting document to show to see the origin of the decision. I am not very clear because you just said supporting documents of any particular document which you want, but from my thinking, it might mean, for instance, the note verbal. Now, the note verbal is a diplomatic communication between two countries. It is in possession of DERCO, and I think honorable members can easily get it there from DERCO. I was made to understand that there is an audit of all note verbals that DERCO, rather a register of all note verbal that DERCO received over the years. I'm sure members can get it from there. It is not for me to release a document that belongs to DERCO. The second thing, which maybe you regard as supporting documents, I'm just thinking, Chair, will be the list of people who were given visas and their names. And obviously their passport numbers. But I'm sure you'll be aware, Chairperson, that Home Affairs is a custodian of people's identity. We don't just release people's identities in public because that might be dangerous. If somebody comes to us, Mr. Tejani, and asks us to give them your ID number and all that, which we have, will be very circumspect. So I am prepared to give the committee that list, but I can't release it in this platform. As you know, it's a platform of members of the public, but as members of the committee, I'm sure you are entitled to that. I can release that list to you, to the chairperson of the committee to satisfy themselves. When we say we have given passport, I mean, we've given visas and all that. The other, which may say is supporting documentation, might be the list of all the customs, the goods and customs that were inspected and or detected and all that. As you are aware, that is an area of SARS. And in communication with them, they said, yes, they do have them. Any person who wants them might have to write to SARS. It's not for me to release things from SARS, because we never get them anywhere. Even if they are working with us at the borders, in customs, when it comes to cargo, goods, and all the other things, they keep them to themselves. And I'm sure the committee may be in a position to do so. Lastly, all these documents I'm talking about, will present them to the public protector, because we are made to understand the matter has been taken to the public protector. I've not yet received that letter from the public protector, but it was confirmed by the office publicly that yes, they've received the complaint from a member of parliament. And so we'll be able to give them all those documents. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's approach the matter in this way. Thanks, Honorable Techana, for that comment. We'll deal with the point that has been raised when we have commented or follow-up issues to understand where our members on certain issues, including the area of the documents that are, I'm sure members will raise which documents they are requesting. And in our closing, in our last meeting, we're clear that there are committees or colleagues, ministers in various departments that are involved on this matter. Given the press briefing that was, the communication that was done by government. What we had focused on is on the area of home affairs, but the interrelated areas which I think you've alluded that you also engage with other colleagues at various departments. So we'll invite members to comment and raise questions and follow up. Then we'll deal with certain issues that are arising from the deliberations. Annual response by yourself, Minister, and the Border Management Commissioner. I will invite Honorable Molekwa, Honorable Pillay, Honorable Rose, Honorable Techana, Honorable van der Merwe, Honorable Kanyile, Honorable Khwase, Honorable Modise Mza, and Honorable Bongani Bongo, in that order.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me thank the Minister for the briefing on the landing of the United Arab Emirates President to the Eastern Cape. And thanks for the report that is detailing all the information that the Portfolio Committee wanted to hear. The Chairperson, I don't have a question. Mine is just to say that maybe we should just allow the investigation to continue. And then once the Office of the Public Protector completed with the investigations, we'll be able to receive the report and interrogate the report on that matter. Because now, not all the details are there because the investigation is going to take place. So if we can allow the investigation to go on and we'll receive the report thereafter. That's my proposal. Thank you, Chairperson.
Noted. Honorable Molekwa, Honorable Pillay.
Good morning, Chairperson and all colleagues. Thank you, Chair. I think for me, receiving the report from the Minister and the briefing obviously place into perspective, some of the noise that has been created. But Chair, I just have one concern, and that is of heads of states visiting the country. And I think that, there's also a level of security that needs to be considered. And hence, it may not be necessary to announce every visit of a head of state. And this in particular, if all of the processes were followed, all of the necessary has been undertaken, then personally, I can't see where the challenges are. However, we are open and welcome to whatever investigation needs to be undertaken. I must say, Chair, that I am response received by the Minister and the department in respect to this visit. And the bigger picture is that as a country, we must be open to all sorts of investments. And I think that for the betterment of our economy and the betterment of our country, that any investment that seems to be bringing in a positive outlook for the country should be welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Pillay. Honorable Ross.
Thank you, Chairperson. I notice in the report, the Minister says that he has regard for Section 33 of the Border Management Authority Act that requires that the Minister must, prior to an approval, publish a notice in the Gazette for public comments for a period of not less than 30 days. I don't see anything in there particularly giving exceptions to that. There's the word there, must. We still haven't received an indication that I'm aware of that this took place. So I'd just like clarification. Was it published in the Government Gazette? And if so, then what is the number? Because we couldn't find it. And the importance of this, Chair, is that, you know, the Minister says that people went overboard and jumped to conclusions, etc. But if you have this process where you publish this in the Government Gazette, no less than 30 days before it happens, then people just have an opportunity to satisfy themselves that the various measures are in place. And then we don't have to have this situation. So the situation is here because this area in law was not complied with. So I would just like to get an understanding of that. And then there's media reports of the number of workers that came. So we're told that there's a contribution to tourism in this kind of visit, and that there were 300 workers. So let's just say there were workers that came to perform various tasks. So I just want to understand, were these workers here on work permits, or were they also here on tourism permits? And just to get an understanding of the Minister's interpretation of this and how this can work in the future. Because one looks at a situation where you say you create an environment where a head of state can come with an entourage of people from various different countries, that they can come in secret, but they're coming not in an official capacity, but in an unofficial capacity. But obviously the head of state is here, and is afforded certain security. But then you have workers. So they're not workers from the Eastern Cape, they're workers from the UAE. So were they here on work permits? And if not, why not? How does that work? That they are able to come here with an entourage and perform work that relates to tourism in this country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ross. Honorable Techana.
No, thanks, Chairperson. Let's appreciate the I don't know if I must call it a report from the Minister in this respect. Chairperson, I raised that issue that I raised earlier of a supporting document on the basis of the presentation that is made by the Minister. So if you go to page 2, so the Minister of Home Affairs says, I have received an application. So under normal circumstances, if you receive an application and you are going to attach or approve, you approve it having attached that application that you have received. We do not have the application from the Eastern Cape and its date and everything else that has to do with that application attached, so that we're able to speak to these issues fairly. That is why I was saying that we're limited in terms of engagement, because the information that we're given is not necessarily what could help us to have to be satisfied in terms of answers in this respect. The Chicago Convention, Chairperson, in its preamble, I'm not going to read every line, but the first lines of its preamble, the first and the last lines, will talk about development of international civil aviation and preservation of friendship of nations. But also it speaks to abuse can become a threat to general security of countries, of contracting countries. So there are a lot of innuendos that the minister says, even in his report, that there are innuendos that they need to clarify. But Chairperson, if we are not given, as the committee, the following documents, so that we're able to move forward. One, the first correspondence between the United Emirates and the Eastern Cape, because that is what made the minister to take a decision on where is the plane going to land. That's why he had to go to the convention to look for a space or something that creates an environment for that to happen. The application that was submitted to Home Affairs, you can't give us what the response of Home Affairs without giving us the application that was submitted to you. Even on the question of visas application, here we're told there's 680 people that land in the country. So there's also others that will have entered differently, meaning in that 680, others are categorized as people coming from countries that do not will not ordinarily give us visas and all of that. But we do not get to see all of this. We need this information for us to make a determination of whether this was above board, not the minister telling us it was above board. So I think it's very difficult, Chairperson, for me, where I'm seated, to speak on this issue. The same Chicago intervention distinguishes between state visit and private visit. We are unable to make even a person who was sitting in the department, I'm sure they were having a difficulty to distinguish or to make a determination or whether this is private or it's not private, because we are told that there were military airlines that were accompanying the president of Abu Dhabi. If there was such, the convention speaks to that. And it means that there was a violation. So if the minister wants to clarify these innuendos, he must give us supporting documents so that we're able to engage this committee. Otherwise, we have an inability. We're not media. We don't care what the media is asking. We are not interested. We want to know as the committee or as members of this committee, what are we dealing with here? Whether processes were followed properly or whether we are not under threat security-wise as a country in terms of what has happened. Thank you very much. Oh, another point that I want to make, Chairperson. So Bulembu Airport in the Eastern Cape is 187 kilometers to where the president was going. Why didn't this plane land in PE, where it was easy, 54 kilometers from where they were going? Why didn't you allow the plane to land there so that you are able to do all of these necessities, including the checks and everything that we have to do in making sure that we don't have problems like the ones that we have now? You go and open Bulembu and make it an airport, which was not even designated as an airport, just because you have got some convention that says you can do that, or the Immigration Act allows you to do that. So I'm really have inabilities of engaging this without the supporting documents, Chairperson of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tejana. Honorable van der Merwe.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to you, our Minister, our Deputy Minister and colleagues. Yes, I want to fully agree with the Honorable Tejana that unfortunately, I do believe that the briefing that we got this morning as members of Parliament is not much different from the press conference or the interactions we saw the Minister engage with the media on. So I'm not sure, it really lacks, like he says, the supporting documents and more background information, because at this stage we are now given a 2-page document and that's about it. So it limits our engagement, it limits our oversight role. But that being said, the minister did make a comment earlier that, of course, he will fully comply with the public protector investigation. So I'm sure once all the documents are then submitted to the public protector, that those same documents will also then be made available to this committee for further scrutiny. But like the Honorable Ruiz, I also had a question, because in the minister's document that he circulated to us, he does make the point on point 5 that in terms of section 33 of the BMA Act, it was required of him to gazette a notice, a public notice for comment for a period not less than 30 days. Considering that the engagements with the ruler or the team from the United Arab Emirates, if I heard correctly, started in December and a formal application was received in March, it meant that a public notice could still have been published. So I would also like to know if it was done, and if not, why not? I do see the rationale around the special treatment for this royal family is because of the investment potential. You know, the investment potential for the province, and then also with regards to tourism. But, you know, looking at this whole trip and this ruler, His Royal Highness landing in the Eastern Cape, it was noted that he brought his own staff, he brought his own food, he brought his own entertainment, he brought his own entertainers, he brought his own furniture, he brought his own fuel, he brought his own cars, he brought even his own gym equipment. So really, apart from him upgrading the airport for his own benefit to land there, I really don't see the investment that has gone into the Eastern Cape, or even the job creation or tourism benefits, because I'm sure they stayed in this compound, which is their own private lodge. So really the question for me then is the special treatment for the benefit of the people of the Eastern Cape and for our country at large, or is it to the benefit of the premier of that province, who now clearly is a friend of the ruling family in Dubai, because we've seen pictures of him visiting them, etc. But I'm sure that will be revealed in due course. But lastly, I want to go back to the point that I made in our last meeting. Now, the new dawn has promised us openness, transparency, accountability, and we've seen very little of that. And I think the problem here is, had the department issued either a notice in the government gazette or just issued a press statement to say we are receiving the ruling family or the ruler of Dubai or United Arab Emirates, Abu Dhabi, and we are therefore informing the nation that they are landing on this date, they are leaving on this date, that all protocols in terms of laws and regulations and the acts will be followed. This whole scenario, which the minister describes as mischievous and a lot of unfounded allegations and innuendos are out there, this would have probably not led to that, not led to the media storm, and would have not led to a public protector inquiry. So I think also there's lessons to be learned in future. I think, as I said before, we've known about this since probably December or March. There should have been a briefing to this portfolio committee. There should have been a press statement of sorts, and then none of this, which is now something that we have to sit on a Friday to deal with, and something that has seized the imagination of the nation, would have actually have been resolved if we had communicated properly. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Van der Merwe. Honorable Kanyile.
Good morning, Chairperson, and greetings to you, the Minister, and to all the colleagues. Chairperson, we appreciate the report that we have received from the Minister regarding the landing of the President of the United Arab Emirates. And I share the same sentiments as the previous speakers, especially Honorable Tejana, Chairperson, that not having supporting or sufficient documents, it is limiting our engagement and our oversight to this particular matter. Because what the minister has given us is not different from the briefing that we saw a few days ago. And when I saw that briefing, I was under the impression that we are going to get a detailed presentation or report when we come to the portfolio committee. And I understand also that the minister submitted to the public protector. But when we so when we were expected full documents related to the application that was received from the Eastern Cape, the correspondence from the minister, because we want to know what exactly did the minister base his decision on, and we do not have those particulars. However, Chairperson, I think I only have a few questions as well that relates to the government gazette. I just want to reiterate what Honorable Rose has asked, because we do know that the minister was supposed to publish a notice on the government gazette. And we have looked for that notice. We have not found it because the public was supposed to comment for a period of 30 days. Says they have submitted that notice, and he has indicated that this is annexed to this report. Can he please also furnish us with the gazette number? And secondly, Chairperson, I think it was going to be very important for the minister to furnish us with the details of the people that came with the president. Because you look at the number, if there's one thing that's even visas, I would want to know when did they apply for their visas and when their visas were approved. We do know that the department is sitting with a backlog that dates as far back as 2016. However, it looks like all of a sudden, because they wanted to give this president a special treatment, they now had a capacity to process a certain number of visas that we don't even know. Because initially I thought it was 500 visas, but the minister indicated that the UAE is exempted, is one of the countries that is not supposed to produce visas when they come to South Africa. So it will be very important for the minister to let us know how many people applied for the visa and when did they apply and when were those visas approved, because we want to know if they suddenly had this capacity, where did they get this capacity? Because we are sitting with a big number of emails, a huge number of emails where members of the committee are indicating that they're still waiting for feedback. We're trying to push the minister. I think you will know also, Chairperson, you also had an oversight. We went to Home Affairs offices because we're very concerned about the immigration department. They were not doing, because they're not responding to queries that we are also sending to them. So we want to understand, how did they come to give this particular president a special treatment? And why him? I think those are all the answers that need to be answered. And where did they get this capacity now of the officials to be able to process this big number of visas while we are sitting with a very big backlog? Chairperson, I also wish to reiterate the question that was raised by Honorable Tetane. I think because I'm very far from the Eastern Cape, I wouldn't have known the difference in kilometers between the landing in PE, that it takes about 54 kilometers for the president to go to where he was going or to his destination. And for him to leave from this particular airport, the Bulembu, it was going to take him about 187 kilometers to if the minister can indicate to us why did the president wanted to use this particular airport, and why did they not use the PE, because the PE, it is a port of entry. Chairperson, I think I'll stand here for now. I'll stop here for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kanyile. Honorable Khwasa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues on the platform, the Minister, the Deputy Minister, and honorable members. Chair, a lot of questions have been raised, and where I am sitting, most of the questions to the Minister are about the processing of individuals that visited or that needed permits and visas to come to the country. And Chair, I would not want to dwell much on questions because a lot of questions have been asked. But where I'm sitting, I see a need of another meeting or another platform for us to thoroughly engage, even if it can means it should be a closed platform where members of the public and the media will not be there, for members of parliament to be able to access all the documents that have been raised. Because where I'm sitting, for argument's sake, I've been wondering how many visas were issued and what kind of visas were issued to every individuals that came in. So, Chair, I would not want to dwell much on questions because a lot of things have been raised and some of the questions raised do not necessarily go to the Minister of Home Affairs. But I would want to request that we call maybe a joint meeting of each and every department or each and every department that is involved so that we can thoroughly engage on the issue. And it is good that the minister is saying that he is ready to respond or he will actually be available to deal with the issue at the level of the public protector. But for us as a committee as well, the minister has a responsibility to account to us as a committee. But if we are going to leave it with the Minister of Home Affairs, for example, Honorable Kanyile has just raised an issue, or Honorable Tejani, to talk about the kilometers. I don't think the Minister of Home Affairs, it's his responsibility to respond on that. But if we have each and every person that is involved as a committee of parliament to come before us and account, it would be better, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Khwase. Honorable Modise Mtsa. Honorable Bongani Bongo.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the Honorable Minister and the Deputy Minister, and morning to all the members of Parliament. I would like to appreciate the presentation as outlined by the Minister. I think it does share some light, and to me it makes some sense. I want just to comment about certain few issues. Maybe let's take there are two important issues raised here. One is the issue of the investments, and it's a very important matter for the people of the rural Eastern Cape and generally for the people of the country, that at least that airport was renovated on the ground that the ruler had visited the Eastern Cape. And I think we as members of parliament must take that as a positive. But to come here and comment about the 54 kilometers versus why not this airport? That is an administrative action, not unless we want to be those administrators ourselves. We were told that there is an investment that was coming in, and that should be sufficient. But if we're going to say, why not this airport, that airport, the reason was that there is an investment. The government of the Eastern Cape wants to use that airport. So they've seen this as an opportunity to have that airport renovated so that they can use it for other purposes. But if you say, why not PE? It's like we want to assist the government of the Eastern Cape to take decisions. I think it's a bit overreaching from where I'm sitting here. The second matter is, the matter is before the Office of the Public Protector. The Office of the Public Protector is empowered. The Office of the Public Protector is empowered to gain and access to any other document that is needed. But it's sufficient for us to get what we must get as members of parliament. That is very important. So at the center of this matter, Chairperson, is the issue of the investment. And other than the investment is that the PP is dealing with the matter. Most of the information will be dealt with at the report that will come from the Office of the Public Protector. But in terms of, and members must understand this, as a country, we sign a lot of protocols and international conventions, which bind us on how must we treat the rulers, presidents, and so on and so forth. And we abide by those kind of protocols. I'm just imagining if we want a list of the people who were in the I think we're also overreaching. What do you want to do with the list? If the minister says the law was complied with, that is should be sufficient. What do you want to do with the list? Because that is it's at a border of breaching.
Can I please rise on a point? Chairperson, can I please rise on a point of order?
Order raised.
Thank you very much. And I understand that it is our responsibility as members of this portfolio committee to conduct an oversight and to hold the executive accountable. All the questions that we have raised here were raised to the minister, and I understand that the minister is more than capable of answering questions. Honorable Bongo does not have a right to tell us things to ask, because we have read the report and we decide what we are going to ask, and we expect all these responses from the minister, not from Honorable Bongo. Honorable Bongo is also a member like all of us. If he does not have any questions, if he is not happy, then that's he speaks for his party. If his party is happy with the whole process, we understand that, but he cannot come here and tell us what questions to ask and what questions not to ask and what format to be. He's not going to dictate to us how we are going to run the portfolio committee meetings. So can you please just rule on this matter?
That's not a point of order.
Okay, no.
Chairperson, can I raise an order? No. Chairperson.
No, hold. Honorable
Okay.
Pillay, Honorable Pillay, Honorable Techana, hold. Honorable Bongo is contributing to the discourse and is not directing committee members on how they must raise their issues. And where there are areas members are not comfortable, once the minister has responded, I'm going to give members to make follow-ups. So there's no area, because there's a chair of the committee here. On the issues that members have raised, and members, when they come back, they will clarify it. Because when you raise the point of order, you expected it to be, take a decision to be ruled, and you'll not have an opportunity to come and make a follow-up and clarify on what other members have raised. And I think I want to assist you members that you'll be invited if there's a matter that a member has raised which you're not comfortable with. So Honorable Bongo is raising a contribution to the discourse on the issues that are sitting with the committee. Thank you. Honorable Bongo, can you
He's
proceed?
just relying on newspapers, Chair. He's just relying on newspapers. There's nothing
Okay.
of investment there.
No.
He's relying on newspapers. This guy was not prepared.
The members of order now, please.
Honorable Techan.
He's relying on newspapers. It's wrong what he's doing.
Honorable Techan.
He can't say to us, we can't ask a question of kilometers.
Honorable,
While he's relying on
respect the chairperson.
No, it's wrong.
Honorable Techan, you'll be given an opportunity to come back if you have a matter. And it's not how we conduct our committee meetings. All members have a right to engage. We're presiding over this meeting. Honorable Bongo, can you proceed?
Chair, I suggest that we don't take any other meeting to discuss this matter. The matter is going to be sufficiently dealt with by the PP's report, and members will get some of the answers in that report because it will be quite an extensive report. And I think demanding a list of the people who were there, I think it's a breach of protocol and the security. And I think members must desist from wanting some of this information, because some of this information is governed by strict rules of state security. And there's nothing wrong with giving a special treatment to a president of a country just like UAE. The same thing is going to happen when those of BRICS come in here. The same thing happened when the president of the United States of America comes to South Africa. And that is a prerogative of it's an administrative action. Ours is just to make sure that things are done according to the law. That is the oversight. But oversight does not mean overreach and wanting to get things that are security related. I think we'll be abusing the minister to ask things that are breaching security. And whilst members know, they also know, Honorable Kanyile knows very well that certain things cannot be given because of the nature of the nature of the classification. Like if you say you want the documentation and so on, you know that Home Affairs is a custodian of the documents of the people of this country and anyone else who come to South Africa. So if the documents are going to be given will-nil by Home Affairs, what does that mean? It's a breach. It's a breach of security. But I think what the minister is giving is what he can give and is sufficient for the portfolio committee to interrogate. Any other matter that relates to this investigation, it will come from the public protector's report because it's intensive. And I don't know, because who are told, not told. It is clear that from that airport was not working for some time. Now it is working and it was renovated thoroughly. Not unless members can go there and see that, oh, it was renovated. But the argument of Honorable Kanyile that it was for the benefit of, it was benefit of the premier and the ruler, I think it's out of order itself. It's a benefit and it's the infrastructure of this country. It's a benefit of the people of this country, the Eastern Cape people in particular. So to insinuate that it was for the benefit of the premier of the Eastern Cape and the ruler, I think it's mischievous and we must frown at that. The reason I'm contributing this way, Chair, is that you must make a decision at the end of the day. So you must have a picture so that you don't bloat something that is all a process is already underway. I'm sure there is investment. The fact that a ruler of that nature comes here, it's an investment. The fact that it's comfortable to come to our country, such a big country, it is an investment. It's even a positive investment to other presidents and other rulers that South Africa is safe and South Africa can be visited to. South Africa has the amenities to host people of that stature. So to say it was not an investment and to say he was supposed to come here for tourism, he must come with his, he must leave his bodyguards, he must leave the military, he must leave people who are cooking for him. I think it's also out of order because it is a protocol of each and every president that wherever he goes, even our president, if he goes to another country, there is a crew that lives here days before to go and prepare. That the things that they must be at a standard where we have signed with that country to comply. That country must comply in terms of our standard. When another president comes to our country, the same thing must happen. So to come here and insinuate a lot of things as if there was a wrongdoing and so on and so forth, I don't think it is. It is just a grandstanding. But let's allow the process still. Let us not be angry. Let's allow the process. The PP is going to produce a report on what has happened, whether Rule 33 was complied with. If it was not complied with, was there any condonation, or does the minister have a discretion to do this and that? Those are the issues that will come out of that report. So let us not create a hype on a matter that already there is a roadmap on how it must be dealt with and clarified going forward. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Okay, we're going to run, thanks, Honorable Bongo. We're going to allow the minister, if you were to delegate to the border management commissioner, you'll indicate, and we'll get also if there are follow-up from members, then we'll invite them, and then we'll then deal with the process once your response has been carried. One area I want to check, Minister, if you have received a notice from the PP on any matter in relation to this issue for or the department or the BMA to respond. If you can clarify me around that part. Minister?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Up to now, we have not yet received any formal communication from the PP. However, we have heard that a member of the PP's office confirmed publicly that yes, they've received the complaint from a member of parliament and they will be dealing with the matter. So we're still waiting up to so far, unless maybe something is in my office and I've not yet seen it. But we are made to understand there that yes, the PP is going to go on with this investigation. What is left is the type of questions that are going to be asked. Chairperson, let me try to answer the question. Let me start with this issue of investment or not investment, because this trip has got history. What I know is that in the Eastern Cape, I don't know whether it's last week or early this week, the Premier did appear in front of a committee. They call it a portfolio committee overseeing the Premier's office, which consists of all the political parties. I understand he went there to present the investment value of what is happening in the UAE together with this particular trip. Then I'll leave the committee to get that information from there, because in the Department of Home Affairs, as you know, our main function is to facilitate visits, not to arrange for them and not even to publicize them, but to arrange, to facilitate entry and exit. That's the main thing that Home Affairs does. But because I happen to have knowledge of the history of this team, because I do attend the President's Investment Conference, etc. Chairperson, in 2018, the President of this country visited UAE on his investment missions. And I made to understand that in that meeting in EAU, the President of UAE pledged 10 billion American dollars in investment, most of which is going to be in the Eastern Cape. And we have just outlined to you the areas in energy, oil and all that, and tourism and all that. But that was the pledge. But also, a week before or a few days before the President of UAE arrived, the Minister of Economic Development of UAE came to South Africa. He met several ministers, amongst them Minister of Economic Development, Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, excuse me, not Economic Development, Minister of Energy, Minister of Forestry and Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. Those ministers were met, Chairperson, about the issues of investment. I also do know that during the investment summit of the President, the ambassador of South Africa to UAE, Honorable Sat Kachalia, came to that investment conference. And a few days before that, because he arrived a few days, he did ask for a meeting with me to brief me about the issues of investment in the Eastern Cape and exactly why is it so important for the country, because you are aware, part of the work of ambassadors is to mobilize and encourage countries to come to the countries where ambassadors come from. That is what I know. And perhaps the committee would like to investigate that further to get more details, Chairperson. Having said so, Chairperson, about the issues of the law or what law was applied, that's the issue raised by Honorable Viewers and Honorable Kanyile repeatedly. Chairperson, perhaps this is the issue of interpretation of laws, and maybe it is correct for those who suggest maybe that such matters of interpretation and investigations of what laws apply perhaps will be done thoroughly by the People Protector. What I know is that these are two laws which were passed by the legislator. And the legislator are you, yourself, members of parliament. You passed two acts. One, the Immigration Act in 2002, which was amended several times. The other, the BMA Act, which was passed 2 years ago. All of them were passed by this parliament. Now, as to which one do you use, if they happen to be, if they have got sections that seem to be talking about one thing. I am not a lawyer, but I know that there is something called interpretation of statutes. And the first principle of interpretation of statutes is to look at the objective, the aim. In other words, the legislator, when they enacted this law, apart from what you read and what is written there, the legislator had certain objectives and aims in mind. Those are usually taken cognizance of by courts of law. If you look at the two acts, Section 30, and it's not Section 33, honorable members, I've already apologized that the Section 33 there is a mistake at the end of attachments. It's Section 30, particularly subsection 3 of it, not Section 33. If you read it, we understand it to be meaning when the minister declares a port of entry as a sort of a permanent port of entry, whereby it will affect particular individuals, or when it closes it, where it will affect particular individuals. The minister then gazettes for 30 days for people to give their views. For instance, in my understanding, that BMA Act talks to things like the ports of entry in the country. The land port of entry are 53. If we have to declare a 54th one, that is where we think this Act 30 of the BMA applies, if we establish a 54th one. The international airports in the country are 11, as you know. If we have to establish the 12th one, that's where then you gazette for 30 days. The seaports are 8. If we establish the 9th one, etc., etc. Alternatively, if you subtract, you close some, you will be aware that we did close some of these ports of entry, especially land ports of entry during COVID. We closed some of them even after the BMA Act was passed. We never quoted that Section 30 at that time because, well, it was a state of disaster. But we did close and open some of them. And I am aware that the Act say notwithstanding any other Act. But we believe the meaning of that is if you decide to take this decision, any Act, maybe from environment, agriculture, the army, and all that, should not be able to stop such a declaration. That is our understanding of this. So, honorable members, there was no gazetting for 30 days. And the legislator, again, could not have meant that. I'm talking about yourself, honorable members, when you pass this Act. Can you imagine that every time somebody must come to South Africa, a head of state, or somebody who's going to look for medical care, or somebody who, for one reason or the other, is unable to enter the country through the designated ports of entry, once this designation, and we have got to go and gazette for 30 days. Honorable members, that will be very onerous, very difficult public administration. And I think South Africa will be a very difficult country to visit and do business with or be neighbors with. We do have quite a number of times received requests from Department of Home Affairs about air ambulances or other aircraft that is going to land at areas that are usually not designated. And we do get asked about that. Now, if we were to make this law and stick to it, that every time something like that must happen, including even a visit of head of state, which can be taken impromptu, then we must go and gazette for 30 days. That will be difficult. I know Honorable van der Merwe says the trip was discussed from December. We should have known from December. No, Honorable Van der Merwe, but from December, they were not talking about the designation or declaration. They were talking about the visit. As to what form is it going to take and where, we did not know of that. What we did share was that after I did sign the declaration, in terms of Regulation 8, I told you here in this act that there's Regulation 8. In terms of Regulation 8, you can at any time gazette, and I did send that declarator to the government printing work so that when they get space and time, they can do so for the records. But it won't be a gazette for 90 days. That one does not exist, Chairperson, because that was not our understanding when we interpreted these statutes, what actually it means. So I just thought I needed to explain that matter, that you are not going to see any gazette which wants people to comment for 30 days. You can imagine if that is the case, maybe then I was going to have to do that again during exit when people go back, because that's what the act is saying, that when they come in and out, I mean, when you declare for people to come in or out, or when you declare that port as a port of entry. So, Chairperson, if we misinterpreted this law, let that be left to the interpretation of the public protector. And then I think the committee will take it up from there. Then the Honorable Ruos asked the issues of work permits. We give people work permits if they are going to be doing some work for a company or an individual or an institution in South Africa. We don't give people work permits if somebody is bringing them. For instance, if I happen to go to another country and take my helper along, who is going to be doing some work, cleaning and a nanny for the child, that's not a work permit. There are people who are doing domestic work here on work permits. But if I go with my own helper, that helper is not going to work and earn a salary in that country. So they were giving tourist visas, Chairperson, not work permits. And Honorable Tejani, you're asking about the application from the Eastern Cape, and I'm sure many honorable members have repeated that. Chairperson, if you go to page 2 of the report I've prepared to you, under designation of Bulembu Airport, under paragraph 3, just below that paragraph 3, I said the application inter alia states, and I thought I mentioned the very important issues there. I quote in verbatim. What I wrote there is exactly what is in the application. If you want to see it itself, as I have said, perhaps the committee must give a list of all those things, documents which they think they must get, and I'll see which one in terms of the law I can give to the committee. This is the application, Chairperson. It starts by saying the Eastern Cape province has received a request from the United Arab Emirates. This is what is in the application of the Premier. It goes on to mention all the investments and mention what's going to happen and mention all the trips the Premier has undertaken. This is the application, Chairperson. Instead of giving you the application itself, I just quoted it verbatim here, unless colleagues believe I'm lying. And how can I lie in this public meeting when all those documents are going to be received by the public protector? If what I've written here is not what is in the application, the public protector will simply ask, why are you giving me this application written in this way, but to the portfolio committee, you gave something else? And I'm not about to lie to the portfolio committee about such things, Chairperson. Then there comes the issue of Chicago Declaration, Honorable Tejan. And you are talking about the declaration is talking about state visits versus private visits. I'm not aware of that, Chairperson. I know the Chicago Declaration to be doing two things. Firstly, it exempts heads of, not heads of state. It exempts state aircraft, what is called state aircraft. Usually, of course, state aircraft are used by heads of states. But in the declaration, state aircraft can also mean an aircraft from the army, from the police. The declaration exempts them from certain practices and protocols that are demanded of civilian aircraft, provided they land at army bases, at army ports of entry. Then they are exempted from that. If any head of state is to land at Waterkloof Air Base, which is an army base, Home Affairs does not have anything to do with it, except if there is a civilian plane landing there, which wants immigration. Then they write us a letter, we go there. Otherwise, we do not have a presence there at that airport. So the declaration does that don't interfere with state aircraft when it comes to a country. This amounts to the issues Honorable Bongo has mentioned, that we have signed them internationally. The second thing the declaration does, in my understanding, and as I talk to the chairperson of Civil Aviation Authority, who's also an international chairperson, not only for South Africa, as I spoke to her when we were doing these things, she said the other thing the declaration does is if that state aircraft decides to land in a civilian place, not a military airport, then the onus lies on them that that airport has got certain features in terms of security and all that. The onus lies on the person who's going to land in terms of the Chicago Declaration, because the declaration exempted that head to land and not be traveled when they land at military airports. And because remember, state craft hearing heads of state usually land there. That's why in South Africa it's Waterkloof. Now, Bulembu Airport is not a military airport. I've heard some comments about it being a military airport. It's not. It's a civilian airport, not even under the Department of Transport nationally, but under the Department of Transport in the Eastern Cape. The fact that the army is using some houses there at barracks does not mean it's a military air base. It's not. And the fact that police have got a hangar there, police have got 2 hangars in the Eastern Cape, one in Gqeberha, one in Bulembu, so that when they need an urgent helicopter action, they just take it from there. But they just use that thing as a sort of a hosting them, as a place which could host their aircraft. It's not something that says this is a military aircraft, military air base or a police air base. So I want to mention that the Chicago Declaration was obeyed in its entirety. That's why the airport has to be renovated in terms of making sure that there are signals, the markings are okay, etc., etc. That is what is wanted by international civil aviation authorities. The other question Honorable Tejani also asked is this issue of Gqeberha versus where the plane landed. Chairperson, when these applications were made, when the decision to undertake the trip were made, I made to understand even the Department of Transport nationally entered the fray. The 2 airports where the ruler could have, the president of UAE could have entered without any changes is OR Tambo International Airport, is Cape Town International Airport, is Kinshasa International Airport. There you could land and come anytime. And you know they are civilian airports. The Gqeberha Airport was intended to be the area where he was going to land. That was the first choice. But when it was assessed, it was realized that the type of aircraft he's going to use cannot land there. The runway is very, very small. And to build a runway is a big thing. I'm sure you are aware of that. It could also not land in East London, Kimpalo Airport. The Gqeberha one is called King Stearman. So they realized that it can't land there, and I understand the ruler was told that no, it's not possible to land in any airport in the Eastern Cape. That's when then the Bulembu Airport was found to be suitable in terms of the length of the runway, but it needs a few finishing touches for it to land there. And of course, the ruler, in terms of investment with Eastern Cape, which the Premier will explain very well, decided that he can take over that work. As to how it was done, I'm sure the Premier will allow that. So it was not feasible, Chairperson, for that, the size of the plane which the President came with to land at PE. And that is the only reason why it never landed there, why it had to go to Bulembu, and why we had to be asked to declare. Because if it ended at Gqeberha, in King Stearman Airport in Gqeberha, it could not have needed any designation whatsoever because it's already an international airport. So this is what happened in this case, Chairperson. The issue of documents, as I've already said, the most important document to you seems to be the note verbal. I've already told you that that document is in possession of DERCO. They are the custodians of that document. I cannot release it to anybody. It's not mine without DERCO's permission, and I'm sure DERCO will release it to you if the committee uses their powers as parliament to write to DERCO. Then the applications from the Premier, I've already told you, what I wrote here is exactly what the application is saying. And that's why I did not attach it, because I quoted it verbatim. The issue of copies of visas and passports, I am definitely going to give this to the public protector if she demands them. But I want honorable members, without sounding to be stubborn or arrogant or what, I want honorable members to look at this issue very carefully before they made a ruling about it, because Honorable Bongo has mentioned some of the pitfalls. Honorable members, we have got information about all of you because you are South Africans. On the National Population Register, we have got information about you. We have got your ID. You have got your family members. We know who is related to who, in what way, because our NPR can even draw a family tree. We can do that, Chairperson. But the question is, can anybody decide to declare to know anything about you? Should the Department of Home Affairs make that information available? We do have visa adjudication system, VAS. Visa adjudication system is a database that keeps information about anybody who ever came to South Africa using any visa. There are 17 different visas, including tourist visa, work visas, corporate visas. We have got that information, Chairperson. Can we just release it to anybody who asks? Can anybody come to us and say, look, I want information about this and that company. I want really you to be very, cool, calm, and collected when you decide this matter. You might be aware, honorable members, if I may remind you, after the Constitutional Court judgment on the issue in Tlokweng, a municipality, the Constitutional Court ruled that when people register with IEC, they must also provide addresses, when in the past they were not, which means in the vote, in that list, the voters roll. There will then be your name, your addresses, your ID, everything about you. Anybody who want to trace you and who may want to use that information to your detriment can easily do so. You may remember, members, we debated this issue and ruled when we finalized that amendment in terms of the Constitutional Court, and ruled that the Department of Home Affairs can only give redacted information. Remember, in the past, you could just go to the IEC, pay money, and get the voters roll. which means you can pay to get information about every South African. It was found that to be very dangerous when the addresses are added, that in terms of the crime that is taking place in the country, many people will be vulnerable to attacks and all that. So we said, no, we can't do that. On that voters roll, if anybody applies, the IEC will give you redacted information, redacted ID numbers. We have got passport numbers of these people who applied for visas. And when we give you a visa, we examine many other issues about you. So I want members to think very carefully about this. But to the public protector, we won't hesitate to give them, because that's what the office of the public protector is for. Now, Honorable Tejani also asked if we are under threat. No, Honorable Member, we are not under any threat whatsoever. As I'm saying, nobody writes a note verbal, a diplomatic communication that I'm going to visit your country when they are preparing to do something that is dangerous or threatening the country. And as I've already said, the Minister of Police and in full force, they were there. They were there, and the Minister clearly mentioned publicly that some of the weapons were not allowed into the country because some were hunting rifles, some were those which are guarding the ruler, as all presidents do, etc., etc. But they were subjected to all the laws of the country. So I've asked the question about Gqeberha Airport, why it could not be used. It was just not practically possible for that size of the aircraft to land there. Chairperson, Honorable van der Merwe, you made a proposal, which was also made by Honorable Bulembu, that the documents should go to the public protector. From there, if the committee needs them, then they can get them and receive them and interrogate them after the public protector has done investigation. We are not opposed to that type of approach. And the issue of us knowing in December, Honorable van der Merwe has already answered it. The investment value, yes, the investment value lies in the discussion which the Premier gave to the Premier's Portfolio Committee. I don't know exactly the exact name, but it's what it does in the Eastern Cape, and it consists of all political parties. If I'm not mistaken, they were satisfied, and members here could maybe talk to their members, because many of the parties here are also represented in the Eastern Cape legislature. Talk to them about that. I'm sure they could shed some light, but we have got no doubt from what I heard from the ambassador that the investment value of the UAE engaging with us is quite huge. It's quite huge. I am also made to understand by the Premier, and I'm sure he can also give that information, that when he left, which is practice when he visits every country, the president of UAE, they also donate money for social responsibility as part of social responsibility away from the investment value. And I'm sure the Premier can also shed some light on that. The question is, should the department have issued a statement? Honorable members, we never issue any statement about any visits, because our job is just to facilitate visits. At no stage as Home Affairs, unless the visitor is specifically visiting Home Affairs, or there's a conference to be run by Home Affairs, but under no conditions does Home Affairs ever issue any statement about anybody who is coming. The line departments will do so. If there's going to be a mining conference, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy will do so. If there's going to be a conference on the public, about the public service, that particular department will do so. If there's going to be a conference on agriculture, the department will do so. If it is investment, the Department of Economic Development and the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition will do so. Home Affairs, we don't issue a statement about anybody coming. So we could not have done so, even in this case. Chairperson, the issue of applications from visa by Honorable Kanyile, she went very, very deep and in detail about the Department of Home Affairs having no capacity. Chairperson, I want to state it up front. We have never lacked capacity to issue tourist visas. Otherwise, tourism will have collapsed in this country. Tourists come anytime, and they don't plan necessarily for a long time, and they don't have those 30 days that are being mentioned here, but they come all the time. We don't have a problem with that. We do not have a problem with corporate visas because we have got a corporate account unit. That's why immediately after last year's investment summit, 19 companies and more, which wanted to invest in South Africa, which pledged at the President Investment Summit, they gave us a total of 3,090 people who must come immediately to South Africa, who are engineers, architects, artisans, and all that, who will make sure that those investments all over the country come to fruition. That summit took place around about July or so. By October, we have already issued all the 3,090 visas for those particular companies under the corporate account visa. Now, the issue where we have got a backlog, Chairperson, I repeat, is not on tourist visas or corporate visas. It is on other types of visas like spousal visas, relative visas, etc. And this backlog was built more during COVID, Chairperson, apart from the few which were left in the previous years, which I don't know what was happening. But for us, presently, Chairperson, because we stopped assessing, for instance, permanent residence visas during COVID, and we reported to this committee that we are no longer issuing visitors visas, permanent residence, tourist visas. They were all stopped all over the world during COVID. When the disaster regulations were lifted last year, just last year only, we got 97,000 applications for this type, for various types of visas. We dealt with 43,000, and a month ago we were left with 54,000, and I'm sure by now it's much less than that. Now those are the ones in which we have got a backlog, but when a visa is for investments, we go all out of the way. And these visas were issued by our mission. You will learn, Chairperson, that there was a time when we centralized the issue of visas in the Department of Home Affairs, which also built a huge backlog. It was not because we don't have capacity, it's because we stopped the issuing of visas in the missions, because the Lubisi report, which was given to this committee, was pointing to certain serious irregularities that were happening in the missions abroad. So we immediately stopped the missions. And you can imagine how many missions and all those visas were coming here at head office. Obviously, it will build a very big backlog, but we stopped that just for the period to put up mechanisms to make sure that if there is any corruption in the missions, we'll deal with it. When we did that, we put mechanisms. When the mechanisms were ready, we then re-allowed our missions to issue visas. So these visas were issued in our mission in Abu Dhabi, all of them. Head office did not have to get involved. If there are visas to be issued in other missions, they do so. So the issue of capacity will not apply in this case, Chairperson. And so we did not just get a certain capacity. It does exist in our mission, and to increase it more, we have just trained 62 people who are due to assess all visas coming from missions. Some of them will even be posted to missions to strengthen them so that they are able to issue visas. We have also reported to this committee that we have just hired 18 legally trained people, lawyers, who have just started on the 1st of April. We all know their effect in building capacity. They were trained for the whole month, but they've got legal qualifications, and their job is going to assess business visas, because those are very complex, so that we don't waste time when people want to do business. Business is a competition, Chairperson. And if you delay people who want to do business with you, they can go to any country in the world and forget about you, as Honorable Bongo have already said. Chairperson, I think I've tried to respond to the questions in as much as possible as I can. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the response. I assume that there's no any other matter that commissioners or Dr. Mashapata will comment. If they are follow-up members, they will be allowed so that we satisfy the process and understanding of the issue. There are 4 issues which I want us to highlight so that we work towards that. The first point is that all of us who have taken an oath, I mean, members of parliament and the minister and the DM, and we understand that the committee hold the executive to account as we conduct our oversight to the portfolios which are within Home Affairs. And I want to affirm the authority of the members of the committee of conducting oversight to engage on subject matters that relates to this portfolio of Home Affairs. And also affirm that we've always, at all available time, invited the minister on some of these related matters, and the deputy minister, who have never failed to brief the committee. And where there are outstanding matters that committee members raises for follow-up, and that they've always complied, and the committee has always interacted with those issues. So I wanted to just that those issues to be noted. We do appreciate that there's a process, and I deliberately asked whether the minister's request has received any notice of questions from the PP, unlike as he indicated that it was in the public media or in the media space or so. And the committee has full right to interact with the department. And that is another process as a Chapter 9 institution that they're going to undertake, which will complement the work that the committee has now started. So entirely, we can't auction our, I will term like that, our responsibility entirely to that process. So that process, when it starts, the same brief I understand from the minister, he will give to the public protector. Now, on the interpretations of the law that the minister is engaging is with ourselves. We have here the Parliamentary Legal Service, and I think is one institution that we will use as we proceed to interact with this matter, whilst also the public protector will be dealing with this matter. Honorable Khwase proposed that we must have a closed session on some of the issues that will be raised by members. And I'm sure you understand that we're dealing with a matter that resides or interested by the public. I fully agree that if there are documents that need to be submitted to members, Minister, within the prescribed law, those documents that you are allowed in relation to the Home Affairs and the matter in question. And I think you've committed to that space in your opening, that you will avail those documents. And does not mean that once we have dealt with this matter in this meeting, if there are issues that arises from the document that will be sent to our attention, the committee will have also a resolve to convene or to request you to come and account to some of those issues. And those documents, members, they will be enlisted, and in a subsequent meeting, will then interact with. We must affirm the process of the PP once the investigation, if there will be an investigation. Let's take there's not going to be an investigation. Then what will be our authority of clarity on the issues? So all of us, we must affirm details so that in our engagement in particular platform or accounting to our constituency, we have authority on the process that was undertaken. And I think the reference, Minister, you give that there have been occurrences of visits in the country, and that was not a subject matter. But because this matter has come to the attention of the public, and I think you will appreciate that in the principle of oversight and holding you to account is what we're conducting as the committee. If there's going to be follow-up, members, I'm just noting this area so that our follow-up is framed around these issues. The last two issues I think we must be emphatic is that there are committees involved on this process, and also must allow opportunity for those committees to interact with this process. And we ground our focus on this area of Home Affairs. And when there's a need to have a joint committee, once they've satisfied in the process that was undertaken, we'll then able to conduct a joint meeting. Well, we have a fiscal meeting in near future. And I think this item with the detailed documents will able to interact with the security areas, which I think has been cited. And I think the Minister of Inter-Ethic that a certain document that directly will send to members or the chair of the committee, so that we assist with the details. There's no any other matter that we're not going to interact with, whether it's going to public protector or the committee must interact with, that will request from the minister, and the minister is not going to, within the framework of the law. We note the investment process, which I think, as you indicate, the minister, the premier of the government of the provincial government of Eastern Cape have interacted with. Parliament committees have also an authority to invite the premier or the committee to come and account on certain matters that need clarity on this process. And we must take that advantage now that we have the minister that will deal with the issues of Home Affairs. So if there are related cross-cutting issues that reside with other portfolio committee, will then allow portfolio committee responsible to deal with that. If there's a follow-up, I'll just invite members so that we don't waste a lot of time. If there's a follow-up, Honorable Van der Merwe, Honorable Lukwase, Honorable Kanyile, Honorable Molekwa, Honorable Tejana, Honorable Pile, Honorable Ross, Honorable Bongani Bongo, Honorable Modise Mza. In that order, if there's follow-up, and then we were able to get or comments or a process that we must engage. But I think I've highlighted some of the issues we're going to focus on. Honourable van der Merwe?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I will be brief. I think we agree with some of the sentiments that you have raised. I think we will then await the public protector investigations and what comes out of that. But also, I want to just align myself with what you've said now. I really want us to guard against this, which reoccurs in our
I'm not sure for Merve, she's muted or she's lost. Mr. Matonzi.
Hello, Chair.
Oh, I thought it's on my side. I think
No.
Just,
yeah, I can see her. She's still in the meeting.
I think she's muted. Honourable Merve, I've lost you. Okay, we'll come back to her. Honourable Khwase.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I don't have much to say than saying that I share the sentiments with you. I agree with what you've just presented and how we should approach this issue.
Thank you. Honourable Molekwa. Honourable Kanyile. We'll come back to Honourable Molekwa and Honourable van der Merwe. Honourable Kanyile.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm also in agreement with what you have suggested in how we need to deal with this matter going forward. However, Chairperson, I think when we leave this meeting, you have indicated that at the moment, the minister has indicated that they have not received any notice from the Public Protector's Office about investigating this particular matter. He's only seen it on the media. And you've also, I think, raised the question that was very important, saying if the public protector then does not investigate this matter, and we leave it where it is today, we will not have done justice to this whole process. It will mean today's meeting was. It will mean today's meeting was not fruitful because we would not have certain answers that we are looking for. I would like to propose, Chairperson, that as a point of departure, maybe if we can get an indication of when the department is going to send us all the outstanding documentation, I think we'll appreciate that so that we can go through those documents. And after seeing those documents, we can then decide if we are going to have another meeting on this particular matter. And you will also guide us on how we are going to handle the matter, a joint meeting with the other portfolios. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Kanyile. Honourable Tejana.
Thanks, Chairperson. Maybe let's start here, Chair. One is that there are concepts or words that shouldn't be used because they trigger our thinking as well and want to use them in the future. Honorable Bongo can't say we're grandstanding, and you, Chairperson, keep quiet about that. When we are interrogating a department doing our work, it must be withdrawn, that thing. If it's not withdrawn, we can equally use those words and more words we can use, and we will not be able to withdraw if we're asked to withdraw. So the spirit in which this conversation must happen, it must not be to try and belittle our inputs and try and throw in concepts that will trigger us to respond in a same fashion, because it would be like siyadelela thina when we use them. So it must be, Chairperson, you must rein in on the Honorable Bongo for using those things. So, and then secondly, I don't know whether to engage Honorable Bongo now as a member of the portfolio committee or as a representative of the department, because he speaks to many issues. And some of them are concurred to by the minister. Sorry, my phone. So the comparison, Chairperson, of the Obama visit and this one of the of United Arab Emirates is unfounded. It does not exist, because Obama was on a state visit. If you go to the documents that the minister is presenting to us, it says here, the president of the UAE, the ruler of Abu Dhabi, will be undertaking a private visit to the Eastern Cape. A private visit. We do not have a problem, Chairperson, because I think that is another misunderstanding that all of you have, including the minister. We don't have a problem with the visit of whoever, including that of the leader of UAE. But you, in the report, Minister, present to us 3 pieces of legislation that made you to arrive at a decision to take certain decisions. You say to us, you utilize the BMA Act, you utilize the convention, the Chicago Convention, and you utilize the Immigration Act. Our issue is, so the supplementation of the document, you can't give to us what you think we should see, not what we want to see. You quote the application. We want the application itself. Unless you don't trust us, just like you were saying yourself, maybe you don't trust everyone here. Unless you don't trust us, unless there's something that we must not see there, then you make an indication that in terms of this law and this act and this law, you are not allowed to see this. So that we can go and find it ourselves whether we are supposed to see it or not. The reason we are asking for visa applications is because there has been the innuendos that he's speaking about, the minister, that have made us to want to believe that there is some shenanigans that have happened in relation to this visit of the president of UAE. So he is the one that is supposed to help us. You can't sign a document in the department that is not, you can't sign a document that does not have an attachment. So if you're going to approve something, there is an attachment that you give to us or to whoever that taking this decision on the basis of this. So quoting the act here and not showing us that these are the reasons does not help us. Leave what Honorable Bongo was saying. Honorable Bongo was supposed to prepare instead of relying on newspapers. It does not help that thing. So all we are asking for, I agree with the things, some of the things that we are saying, that yes, the minister has confirmed that he's going to give us some of the things. But it's Home Affairs that said to us, I took a decision on the basis of the act. We want to see what was attached by DIRCO. We are not saying give us DIRCO information. For you to arrive at that decision, give us what you were given, the application, so that we are able to interact fairly. Siphume ku-committee singenazo questions. Chairperson, that is all we are asking for. So I agree with you. The sentiments that you are saying that we should, the minister confirmed earlier that he's going to give us this document. Also, Minister, I've picked up some inconsistencies. When you presented the document, you said to us that you won't be able to speak on behalf of DIRCO or whichever department, but you're talking about investment. You spent at least not less than 5 minutes on issues of investment that you said you can't speak about because it has nothing to do with Home Affairs. You are opening up a room for us to want to engage on the same issue that we are raising. We have spoken to our counterparts who are sitting at the Eastern Cape Legislature. We can even give further information, but we refuse to do that because we want to limit ourselves to what Home Affairs is about in this committee. not anything else. So we're asking you, Chair, let's follow that, what you have proposed, agreed, and wait for the minister to give us those attachments. If there are legalities in respect to some of the information he's going to give us, we will be able to get that those legalities. But we really need to have this information in our hands. We need the proof of the diplomatic and landing rights request, because it was written to him as Home Affairs. We need the letter, the first correspondence between UAE and the Eastern Cape, because it formed part of the documentation that made him to take that decision that he took to land the airplane in Bulembu, not in any other place. So we need those things. Anything that was written to Home Affairs in respect to this, that is what we need. We don't want the eggs. The eggs were fine with them. We've read them, we understand them. Where we don't understand, we'll come here probably and ask whoever who can assist us in the legal office in the parliament. So those are the things that I think, Chair, we should deal with. Thank you very much.
Are you done, Honorable Teta? Are you muted?
Yes, I'm done,
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Techana. Honorable Pile.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, let me first endorse and appreciate your guidance as the chairperson of this committee, and say that we fully support your summary and the way forward in how we are going to deal with this. I think it's important to first highlight that we appreciate that, and that's the way we should take. So I support that view. But Chair, I also want to just raise a few points of concern. One is that this committee has never digressed. We may have differences of political views, but we've never had a case in point where our committee has digressed. And I think that as a chairperson, it's important to just emphasize that we are not going to allow the committee to end up in that position, particularly because we get sidelined by the issue at hand. And what we need to deal with is the issue at hand. And I think it's important that we're able to deliberate and resolve on that. Further, Chair, we must also be cautious as members of this committee and guarded in that we don't overstep our role of oversight. And I'm going to stop with that point there. I'm not going to even elaborate. But yes, we must be cautious and guarded that we don't overstep our role of oversight. The other one is that all members were requested to send in questions. And I recall that the committee secretary even reminded members that we needed to send in questions. And just as a point of clarity, did we ask for these documents? Was there a request made for it? Because clearly the minister will come prepared if there was any particular document that was required or requested by any individual member or members. And I think it's important that to note that if it was not earlier requested, that it's clearly not going to be presented today. And perhaps then we can be able to look at it when we have to move forward and how we get those documents. But in my parting comments, Chair, I want to say that we must not be selective. And why am I saying this? That towards the latter part of last year, there was a German delegation that visited the Western Cape. That the Premier of the Western Cape went on every media platform talking about billion rands of investment. Now, the question I would pose to members is, was there a request for information on the delegation that visited the Western Cape? Was there a request for all of that to be unpacked, unraveled? Or is it because we felt that it was a head of state with investment and there was no need to? But here we are in the same kind of scenario, and it's a different approach to it. Now, heads of states and delegations visit the country all the time. And imagine if every single visit, we requested that they must then reveal and divulge all information, including lists of persons that visit the country. You're going to find that we're not going to have any foreign investment because heads of states and delegations are not going to want to visit our country. And what is this saying to us as a country? Now imagine if every country where our head of state visits or goes with delegations and they start requesting information, etc., when the head of state or delegations visit those respective countries. We clearly are going to find this challenging for us because then the head of state may not want to visit those countries anymore. And I think we must be very, very cautious about how we push away this kind of investment. But in saying that, I respect the views of members of this committee, but more so, the way in which you have summarized is the way in which we should end this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable van der Merwe. I'm not sure whether you've reconnected.
Yes, sorry about that, Chairperson. I've got load shedding issues. I'm really sorry. I don't know where I got cut. But yeah, Chairperson, I will be brief because all my colleagues have spoken, but I think also to align and to support your comments and summarizing a way forward. I think what we will then, of course, do is await the further submission of documents as you've requested and colleagues have requested, as well as the public protector process to unfold. But I did say, and I also want to make this comment, that we really need to, as colleagues, guard against taking the role of answering one another, because as I said, the minister is very capable of answering for himself. He does attend our meetings. He doesn't miss any of our meetings. So it's not our responsibility to be answering one another. And in fact, we represent different constituencies. And so all the questions that we are asking here are relevant. To the issue of the minister saying that he could not have issued a statement because it's not his role or responsibility and it's never done. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, Chairperson, if this visit was planned, it's on the cards, nothing was published in a government gazette, to avoid this type of media spectacle and people, engaging without the facts, and South Africans saying, it's another Gupta landing, people saying, for example, that our country is for sale and at this rate, there'll be no South Africa left for future generations. There is a responsibility upon the minister and even government then, if it wasn't the minister that is able to communicate the visit, at least just announce the visit and give brief details. One doesn't have to go into the who's traveling, how many people are arriving, but just to take the nation and even this portfolio committee into confidence to say, this visit is happening, it has gone through due processes, then at least we resolve some of the issues that we are dealing with this morning. And then again, to the issue of investment, I think we will further interrogate this, but what I said as well earlier, yes, as much as we are told that there will be investment coming to the province, the ruler also came with all of the things that he could have purchased from the local economy. So we need to also balance things. Is the special treatment we are giving this delegation, does the investment warrant that special treatment? But I think as we further engage on these issues, there are lessons to be learned. And also, I think, again, unless we are going to be handling these matters better in terms of either the Eastern Cape government issuing a statement to say that there is this upcoming visit, then we are going to routinely be dealing with these matters after the fact. And we as MPs learn facts and figures and information from the media, which I don't think is helpful going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Van der Merwe. Honorable Roos.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, Chair, I'm in agreement with your proposed way forward with the consideration of the additional proposal of Honorable Kanile. But I do have follow-ups on the response of the Minister, because as much as we deal with this issue, we also need to deal with potentially dangerous precedents. And I'd like to thank the Minister for the clarification on the work permits. And also just to clarify the POPI Act. I think it's been mentioned on a few times as something where we request information or there's a request for some sort of personal information and the POPI Act is raised. And just to clarify that the preamble of the POPI Act specifically requires the removal of unnecessary impediments to the free flow of information, including personal information, where the constitutional values of democracy and openness are at stake. And then Section 33B of the POPI Act is much more specific, and it states that its provisions must be interpreted, that's the provisions of the POPI Act, in a manner that does not prevent any public or private body from exercising or performing its powers, duties, and functions in terms of the law. So yes, I agree with your approach, Chairperson, but I just think I wanted to highlight that again, because on numerous occasions, the POPI Act is raised to say that, it's improper for us to have access to that personal information. According to the POPI Act, it isn't improper to have it in the exercising of our powers and duties and functions. The Minister raised the issue of interpretation of statutes, and one of the golden rules of that is that where possible, the words should be given the meaning that they have in their ordinary usage. And I'm really struggling to understand how there can be any misinterpretation or contentious phrases in Section 33 of the BMA Act, because it states that the Minister must, prior to an approval in terms of subsection 1 and 2, publish a notice in the Gazette for public comment for a period of not less than 30 days. So it's a very clear and unambiguous statement over there. And I think, I went back quickly and I checked any comments on the bill, any clarification comments on that section, and there really are none. It's absolutely meant to be as it is. Its ordinary usage and its ordinary meaning. But what I'd like to ask the Minister is, Minister, you say you had regard for this section. Did you receive a legal opinion on your interpretation, given that you interpreted that because it's a visiting head of state, even if they're visiting in their personal capacity, that the must in this phrase is no longer applicable? Did you receive a legal opinion on this interpretation? Or did you just make this interpretation yourself? Because it's similar to the Gupta situation, where officials received a note verbal from the UAE embassy on the 6th of April, stating that the Guptas had acquired the citizenship of Vanuatu, but the minister insisting that they are still South African citizens, even though the law is absolutely crystal clear that they would have lost their citizenship in this case. So I'd just like clarification on this from the minister, because, Chairperson, it's very important that we get clarification on this issue, because we cannot allow the executive to say, I interpret the law like this, and therefore I didn't follow a very clear statute. This wasn't a state visit, so you cannot compare it directly to a state visit. Yes, we understand that there was a state president, and so they get certain specific special attention. But we need to prevent situations. Imagine Vladimir Putin comes on a secret visit, and he's allowed to land in a location, and nobody knows about it until afterwards, and he lands and leaves with an entourage of various persons. I think it's something that the public would have a right to know that is happening, as Honourable Fundamanova has stated, at least to understand that it's happening and what the reason is behind it, that it's a private visit, that all the mechanisms are put in place. And so we really need to be sure as a committee that the interpretation of that Section 33 of the BMA Act is crystal clear, so that we satisfy ourselves that the minister is allowed to make such an interpretation on that, because otherwise the law has been broken, and that's a fact. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Honorable Ruas. Honorable Bongo.
No, thanks, Chair. I accept the summation that we have made in terms of the way forward. I think it may assist us going forward. I think the minister has already said that it is in public that the public protector is investigated. We must just follow that process very close, and its time frame. I must say that I don't work for the department as one member is insinuating. I don't work for the department, but I am not going to just keep quiet if members here insinuate that the visit by the ruler was for the benefit of the Premier of the Eastern Cape and the ruler, which is it's not factual, it's not true. And members are allowed to say those things willy-nilly, and then we must keep quiet. If we respond to those things, members start to say, no, we must not speak against one another as members. No, members must not mislead the public in terms of whatever. We have a right to respond and put and set the record very straight in terms of what are the real facts. If I state facts, one member says I hear from the media. What authority is that member using to say I've heard that from the media? Why does he think I research and I listen to other portfolio committees discussing the matter? That is also to insinuate that it's only himself who's an authority of the issues that must be raised here. All that we must be doing here, we must just be calm, cool and collected and deal with the issues in terms of the law. A state visit or a visit by the president of any other country, it is governed by protocols that we have rectified and governed by a lot of other international conventions. And the minister, in terms of the law, is granted certain discretions. It will be overstepping, Chair, if when the minister exercises his discretion, and then you say it is unlawful, it has broken the law, because it will appear some of the line of arguing from members. It already has a conclusion that something was wrong, not even a suspicion, a conclusion. And if we're going to approach the executive in that way, I'm going to have a problem. I refer to what Honorable Pillay has said. There was a German visit. Because it's German visit, nothing was raised, nothing, and it will seem the same procedure we followed. Now it's UAE, it involves certain people, then the whole halabaloo about the visit and so on. I think it will be unfair from us if we're going to treat these things in a manner that is not equal and is unfair. I think we're going to pick up a problem amongst ourselves as members, because whatever we do must be based on research, the law, and protocols that have been signed. And this protocol is not the role of the minister to come and teach us about the protocols. Every one of us must research what are the protocols of a state visit. What are the protocols of when the president comes? And it is absurd that one will expect, if that president comes, he must use some local people, local what? What informs that? Because all those things are governed by the law, which members must be knowing at this point. But just to take a platform, I take serious exception if we are going to raise issues from no research, from our own emotions. I will really continue to put my views across, and if it's my right if my views differs with the view of any other member. Comrade Lizelle is correct. We represent different constituencies. So I would not take certain insinuation from members and just move without them being challenged. So, Chair, your submission, I think is what we must follow, and the law is what we must follow in terms of how we deal with people and treat people who are tourists and who are investors. And I don't think the minister has spoken at length about the investment. He was just outlining what the issue of investment is about. It has nothing to do with us having to call that Department of Investment. I'll stop there, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Bongo. There's one matter I will deal with when we close. Minister, comments on the issues that members have raised?
Yeah, Chairperson, let me start with this issue of outstanding documents. And Honorable Bongo has already clearly started. I would like you to write a letter and specifically as Parliament, telling me what document you are looking for. Because as I'm listening to honorable members here, it's as if there's a slew of documents that are missing. From where I'm sitting, and I want clarity from you, Chairperson. There are 3 documents which I think you are looking for, and I want to know whether there are any more. The first one is note verbal, and I've really made a proposal here that a note verbal is a document of DERCO, is diplomatic communication between 2 countries, between DERCO and that particular country. And I said, please go and ask for that document from DERCO. It's not for me to release DERCO documents to you, even if they might be available to me. It's a letter written to DERCO. If it must be released, it must be that minister. It can't be a different minister of government releasing a letter from another department, which is a diplomatic communication. So I've just said, please, that one, refer it to DERCO to issue to you officially. And I don't think they will refuse, they will do so. I'm just trying to follow procedures, especially when it comes to issues of diplomacy, because they are very difficult and complex, Chairperson. I am not well versed in that world of diplomacy and all the international agreements on diplomacy and on heads of states. DERCO is in a better position to do that. I'm really appealing to you, get that document from them. The issue of applications submitted to Home Affairs, from the Premier, I've quoted here in details. If honorable members believe that is not enough, yes, then honorable members put in writing, say we require this and that document of the application, so that I don't get confused about exactly what document is needed. Then there is this issue of copies of visas and passports. Chairperson, this is a new request. It has never happened that people who visit South Africa, and there are millions of them, millions who visit South Africa every year. We can count about 18 million visits, not necessarily individual people. At no stage has there ever been a request on any of those documents of visas. Now, these ones are people who are coming with heads of states. When I spoke, honorable members and honorable viewers, I was not necessarily referring to POPI Act. I was just referring to security of individuals when their information is disclosed. I was talking about that, and I said the committee need to sit down and think very carefully, because whatever decision you take on this visit, because you believe it's UAE and there were some shenanigans in it, you must know that it will apply mutatis to all the other people and visits and yourselves. When somebody start asking me, write to me and ask me if you are still married to so-and-so, if you are divorced to so-and-so, if, you know, and ask me about your family members, because we have got that information. I was just saying, be careful, honorable members. Don't look at one issue and then come and open yourself and the country to all the other consequences which you may not like. And I give an example about this issue from the Constitutional Court of asking for voters' roll, which have got people addresses, IDs, names, and everything about them. I said, think very carefully about that. And so that's why I would like in writing, so that I've got a record about exactly what has happened. And I'm also asking, Honorable Chair, not with arrogance, because these things have happened before. I respect the fact, Honorable Chairperson, that you have taken an oath and you have got power and you have got oversight role over departments. But there are certain legal things that you do not have power on, and it has happened before. I once appeared in this front of this committee where we were instructed to withdraw a particular waiver which we have given to an individual in the mining sector. I'm sure you may remember that. The committee was so angry, they instructed us to withdraw that. We tried to plead, but the committee reminded us of their oversight role. And the Premier, I mean, the Director General went to withdraw that particular document. The person to which that document was withdrawn went to court I want you to see the judgment, and maybe I must come and give it to you. The judge was scathing to the Director General. He even threatened that if you were to do something like that again, he is going to get punitive cost in his own, from his own pocket, not from the state. That's how scathing the attack was. And the judge said, you have got no right in your administrative action to take instructions from the third party. In that judgment, Parliament was referred to as the third party by the judge. And they said, no, when you take this administrative decision, no third party must influence you. And I'm repeating, the judge was referring to Parliament as a third party in this matter, that when you take this administrative decision, do them according to the law and what you think is correct, not because you were influenced by somebody else. Now, all those things are important. And Chair, you have mentioned that we have got a parliamentary legal services here, because all these issues can actually be very serious legal matters. So I want clarity, Chairperson, about the documents which I must produce, and I'm asking for that in writing, because I don't need to start making mistakes and prevaricate. As Honorable Pile has said, the questions that you have asked me, and I still know honorable members who asked the question because it's written there on the list you have given me. None of them asked for this issue of documentation. Chairperson, for the sake of record, I want to correct that as far as I know, President Barack Obama never paid a state visit to South Africa. During his whole term, 2 terms, he never paid any state visit. Obama came twice to South Africa. He came to the funeral of Madiba. That's not a state visit. A state visit is specifically when you visit the state president. He did come, of course, as the president of America to attend Madiba's funeral in 2013. He did also come to visit some NGOs, including the work done by Archbishop Desmond Tutu in Cape Town, where I attended actually. It was not a state visit, but he was accorded all the protocols that are given to state visit. Now, Honorable Tejani is saying they want to see the visas because they are shenanigans. If this whole drive here, Chairperson, is driven by the fact of suspicions of shenanigans, I will believe that that's exactly what public protector is there for. Were there shenanigans in this trip? We are not aware of that, but we believe the public protector's office was established for that. And if members believe there are shenanigans, they should also equally mention them and say, we believe there's a shenanigan here. Can you do this and that? We believe there's a shenanigan here. We are not aware of any shenanigans in this trip. And I think that way it is very unfortunate because there's no expatiation of exactly what shenanigans are there for. At least I had one member of parliament who is not a member of this portfolio committee saying he believed that those aircraft were carrying cash. And Chairperson, during the press conference last week, the representative of SARS, who is responsible for that part of declarations, etc., said clearly that there was no cash in that plane, meaning that cash that needs to be declared, etc. So if that information is given, but people still believe there are shenanigans, well, it becomes very difficult for us to be chasing ghosts, Chairperson, because we do not know to what end. Honorable Lizelle, yes, I can confirm with you, that heads of states are accorded special treatment, yes. Whether this visit is state or private, they definitely get accorded special treatment. They are not like you and me. When a head of state come here or go to any other country, there is that special treatment which are given, which is not given to ordinary people. So yes, I am confirming and emphasizing that. Honorable Ruos, the issue of BMA, of whether I did ask for legal opinion. No, I didn't. And I'm not questioning what the BMA is saying. The BMA Act in Section 30 is very clear. I'm not questioning what it is saying. All I'm saying is, in my understanding, we used Section 9A of the Border Management Authority, taken together with Regulation 8. We did not use the BMA, because in our understanding, the BMA is used in this regard when you are declaring a permanent port of entry. I am aware that the word permanent does not appear on the Act itself. I'm aware of that, but that was my understanding. And I further said, in my understanding of the interpretation of statutes, the first principle in interpretation is, what was the aim of the person who made this law? What was the person intending? And I ask members, was the intention that South Africa from now onwards must be a very difficult country to enter, in terms of every time somebody is asking to enter, there must be a gazette and asking the public for 30 days. And I even posed a further question, which is extreme. What if an ambulance, an air ambulance, and we receive those every week or every month, bringing somebody here for urgent medical treatment, and they have to land in an area that is not declared, that I must still go to the public and ask for a gazette. That is what I was saying about my understanding of the BMA. And if that is wrong interpretation, I'm saying let that be adjudicated upon by some legal persona in the form of a Chapter 9 institution in this case, because it means me and you, Honorable Ruos, are differing on the two acts and what they are saying, and why I used one act rather than the other. Because I was understanding that the one act is meant for an area that is going to be open permanently for members of the public, not just for one visit. That was my understanding. And it will remain that until somebody who is well-versed with these things, who have got total authority on these legal matters, states otherwise. Now, Honorable Ruos, you mentioned the issue of a secret visit by Putin. In my whole life, I've never heard of a secret visit by a head of state. What I know are state visits and private visits. I've never heard of any head of state. And I can assure you, I read lots of books on issues of intelligence. I've never picked up anywhere about any head of state taking a risk to pay a secret visit to any other country, because that will be a world-class scandal. What if it is discovered is caught? And what is the secrecy all about? I'm really appealing that we don't just throw words here that maybe will be scarecrows to the public about people paying secret visits. I've never heard of it. It will be extremely irresponsible and careless for any head of state to visit another country secretly, because they might even be harmed, and their country will be harmed irreversibly. So please, let's stay away from wild imaginations and wild allegations. There is a huge difference between a private visit and a state visit, but a secret visit, oh, Chairperson, I think I've put my case to you, and I'm asking for that letter that clarifies me about which documents I must present to you. Up to so far, I know only two. The note verbal, I'm saying refer to DERCO. The application from the Premier, yes, I've quoted it, so there's nothing, there will be anything wrong in presenting it to you if that is what you are needing. But the copies of passport, I'm asking and appealing to you. Go and sit down and think very carefully about it, because it won't end here. Whether Home Affairs from now onwards can easily just give information about identities of people all over because somebody is suspecting anything. If it has to be done, I am asking that it be done within certain legal parameters. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thanks very much for your comments. I've outlined, and I think members are agreeing with the approach that I've proposed on how we're going to handle this process. In 2020, somewhere there, we dealt with a matter that relates to how we engage to each other in terms of the usage of language. And I think how we engage to each other. I think there was a point, I can't recall which members have raised certain words that are not supposed to be as members of parliament when we engage on the process we used. And I think we took exception collectively that such may not used in the process in terms of the rules of parliament, but also on the decorum on how we engage as the portfolio committee. So I think I want to repeat our spirit of engaging to each other and an executive, because when we raise issues as members, we raise them on behalf of the public as the public representatives on the issues that the executive and us as the parliament, we engage on. So I think it will be important that we demobilize that attitude in this portfolio committee. The second point I think which we'll do, Minister, is to, and I've cited deliberately, that we have a parliamentary legal service in parliament that assists committees on certain legal questions. And I think we'll take that route as members have agreed on certain areas that this committee requires in relation to this matter. We'll formally write as the committee, now that we've established the issues, and members will be giving us areas of the issues beyond what members have raised in the committee, of the documentation that they will request. Within the law, Minister, don't be jittery when the issues that you in terms of the law, you have no powers to send to the committee. You don't need to act in that matter. But where the law requires us to request documentation, we'll do that. The process of the public protector is one of the key areas that we must appreciate its process as it unfolds, so that it clarifies most of the things that members of the committee have raised. We'll follow up on this matter. And once proper areas, documentation has been raised. I must appreciate members for having engaged the presentation, engaged the minister on the subject matter, and must appreciate the minister for having allowed members to engage yourself and engage with the portfolio committee. We could not have any other opportunity to engage this matter in the relied on the press brief that was conducted. And because we ought to have a conversation so that members have clarity on details on the issues. And I agree that there are certain issues that members have not been able to engage on because there are certain documents we are referring, which we'll submit to yourself, Minister, after we engage with the legal team and the committee. You will come back to the committee for follow-up as we engage on this process. We must thank yourselves, the Commissioner Mieta, Commissioner Mashiapata, and the commissioner, all commissioners, and the Director General for having availed yourself today to engage with the committee. That will assist us moving forward to follow up on areas that were not fully engaged by both the committee and the minister. Mr. Matonzi, is there any other any other announcement outside this meeting that was turning off this this item?
No, Chairperson, there's no other announcement.
Okay, thanks very much, honorable members. Thanks, Minister. Our meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, honorable members.
Long
Until we
live the
meet
chair.
again.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Bye-bye.